Good day, everybody. We're here at Toronto's Pearson International Airport, and today we're going to be flying the 747 from Toronto down to Atlanta. So what we're going to do in this flight is we'll just go over everything, how it's set up. I am using the new Salty mod from the guys over at Salty and the fly-by-wire installer. So hopefully this will give you a little bit of a view of how the aircraft works, and maybe you'll want to jump into the 747 and fly it as well. So let's hop on board the aircraft and we can start getting her all set up. Alright, we're in the cockpit of the 747. She is cold and dark, so let's get our seat over here in the captain's side and we can start going through our pre-flight setup of the aircraft. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to come up to the overhead panel. We're going to turn on the battery switch, and we're going to turn on the two external power switches. And there we go, external power is now on. Hydraulic demand pumps are on auto. Parking brake, come down here, is set. Landing gear lever is down and showing green. Flaps are up and no flaps are showing, so we are good with that. Fuel selectors are all in cutoff. Anti-ice is over here. All four anti-ice are off, and the wing anti-ice is also off. Oxygen is checked. Emergency exit lights. I have not been able to find a switch for that, if there is one. If there is, please let me know in the comments. I've looked all over, have not been able to find it. And the altimeters, we can come down and we will set our altimeters. And I'm running the few clouds just to keep the weather normal, so it's going to be 2992 both here and in Atlanta, just for simplification. So we'll come up, we'll throw some lights on. We're going to throw the nav lights on and the logo lights on for the aircraft. So she is up and ready. We're now going to go down to the panel here. Let me get the view up. So this is our view. We can do a couple different screens on the main one here, and these are linked, so it doesn't matter which one we use. But what I'll do is I'll come over and zoom in a little bit. There we go. So we're going to go into the Salty side. Just to show you, this has the IRS. You can do your alignment status and your instant align if you want to do that. Your METARs, we've got our METARs set to bring up the Metro Blue, which is the service Flight Sim uses for its weather. TAFs come out of the NOAA Sim Brief. That's where you set up your Sim Brief number for pulling in your flight plans. Units, we are working in kilograms. ATIS SRC will come from VATSIM if ATIS is available. There's a debug page and a miscellaneous page. So you can turn the co-pilot on and off. We'll turn it off. You can do a sync on this and a pause at top of descent. We've got those turned off as well. So we'll come back to our main menu here. We're going to go to initial, or the init ref page, and we'll start setting everything up. Actually, first, before we do this, because it's going to take a while, let's get the IRS's aligning, and then we'll head back down. So they're going to start doing their thing. There we go. So we'll do our check. I've still got to update the nav data. It's slightly out of date, but that's okay. We're going to come over here to our position initialization and tell it where we are. So we are at Charlie Yankee Yankee Zulu, which is Toronto International Airport. We will grab the current GPS position and drop it in there, and now the aircraft knows where it is. Push execute. Don't have to because the light's not lit up. That is fine. And we're just going to follow along and go to the next page. So we are here currently in the routing page, and we're going to do the request. So we're going to send the request off for the dispatchers to send us our flight plan. We've got the message. We can go load, and our route is now in. Toronto to Atlanta, there's our flight, Canadian Airlines 5556, and we'll click activate and then execute. So that is now done. We're going to now put in our departure information, and I will show you on the charts when we brief our flight plan. But basically we're going to be heading off on runway 24 right today. We'll go to the next page. It's runway 24 right, and we're going off on the Bets 2, and we will be going out on Foxy. There we go. And we'll click execute for that. We'll go back to our index and then our arrival. We're arriving today on 27 right. Oops, ILS 27 right. We are going in on the Andre 1. So we'll go next page. There it is, Andre 1. Our entry point is Hillary, and we will transition at MM cap. There we go. And we'll hit execute for that. So we can come back to route. All our routing information is up, and we can look at our legs. This is all correct. We're vectored off, and then we're vectored to our first point here, and we can just come down. You see we got two Foxies, so we can take that one and put it on to there. That should erase it. There we go. So we follow the route down, we'll go Hillary, and we can move that one up there. Get rid of that discontinuity as we enter in onto the star. And that's all looking good. Come down to MCAC, and we're just going to carry the routing right through, no vectors. So that's all now entered in. Our restrictions are all entered in as well. And we are all fine there. So back to route, we can now go to our performance initialization. And here's where we're going to set in some of our fueling and other information. So we're going to once again send the request, and we're going to take a look and see if this is correct. Now it's not going to be correct. I know they're still working on it. We can accept it, and now we're going to modify it. So fuel for this trip, we actually want 28003. 033. So we'll put that in there. Alright, doesn't want me to change the fuel now. Alright, let's see if it'll let me do it now. It's one of the things. No, well, let me change my zero fuel weight. We might have to go with more fuel than we want. I'm still trying to figure this out. I think perhaps just leaving it and putting in the numbers manually might work. But oh, that changed that. So let's see if I can do the fuel now. I'm putting it in wrong. That's why it's not accepting it. 28.0 tons. No. So apparently you have to do it through here. So we want 28, just over 28. So if we bring this down to the notch, that will take us just over 28. There we go. And our takeoff weight of 2895. That was pretty close. $290. So that's what we'll use for our fuel. So that's all set up. So if your fuel won't enter in, you can do it through that way, and I will set it all up. Cruise altitude of 40,000 feet today, cost index of 80. That is all correct. We come over here to our thrust limits. We're going to leave it on the normal climb mode. Everything is set there. Come over to takeoff data. We're going to want to enter that in. Takeoff flaps are 10. That's all set. Center of gravity is all set, and we can now do our V speeds, 121, 134, and 156. If we go over to page 2, it just gives us some engine out, thrust reduction, acceleration, altitude, and everything like that. So this pretty much doesn't have to change unless you specifically want it to. So that's all our information is pretty much all set up. The last one we have to do is approach, and we'll do that when we get closer to coming into the airport. As we can see, the IRSs are aligned. So if we come up overhead, we can put them into nav mode. There we go. We are all set there. Now for this screen here, the control buttons are over right here. Not all of them work. We have no electric. We have fuel. We're on that right now. The ECS doesn't work. Flight control does. Hydraulic doesn't work. Doors work. Gear works. It shows you their stats and temperatures. And the info doesn't. We'll keep it on fuel just to monitor that as we go along. So we're going to set an initial altitude of 10,000 feet. We will set our heading for the takeoff to our runway heading, which is going to be 237 degrees. So we'll just dial this over to 237. Because we're going to be vectored out on the departure. And an initial speed of 200 knots is fine. So that is all set. So let us brief the departure itself. And I will pull up the charts. There we go. So we're sitting here at Terminal 1. We're going to come out, head down to Delta, taxi down Delta to 24 right. And we're going to be taking off. This is where we're going to be vectored on 24 right, which is the lower one here. We're going to come out, and then we'll be coming down to Murno, and then Oakville, Betts, Samuel, and then Foxy. Once we leave Foxy, we're going to head south over Lake Erie. Oh, actually, we'll be crossing over on the departure. Then we're going to head down this way. We're going to pick up the Andre 1 arrival, which is right here. So we're going to come in at Hillary. There's Aiden, Pup D, LD, we all known, Strawberry, Andy. And from Andre, it's Andre there. We have to be at 250 knots, 13,000 feet. Then we go to Smelly, Anvil, Posey, and then down here to UU, and then in towards MM Cap. At which point we'll be on the approach into the airport. And when we land, we are going to be departing the runway to the right, probably down here at M12, and then we'll taxi back up, and we're going to be parking here on Concourse E at this terminal here on ramp 5, which is the International Arrivals Terminal for Atlanta. So that is the plan for the route. So I think we're pretty much ready to go. Passengers are on board, fueling is all done, weights are all set. So as we sit here getting ready to go, we're going to do our pushback. Let's do a little pre-planning. So we're going to want to be facing pretty much southwards. So we're going to come out like this. We'll have them push us around, and we will stop right there. So that is set. So we can do our before start checks. So we'll come up to the overhead panel again. Hydraulic pumps are all on auto, and demands are on. Can't turn these anyway, so they're not going to move. They should be on aux, but there's no way to adjust them. Fuel loads has been checked. We will turn our fuel pumps. We have nothing in the center or stabilizing tank, so we're going to turn on the pumps here for all of the pumps. APU, we'll close the cap there. We'll come up and we will start the APU. So we'll click it on, wait a second, and then over to start. So the APU is now starting up. We will put the beacon light on both. Come on. There we go. We'll also turn on the wing lights. Coming down, we can do a check on the doors. All are down and armed. And we can come down and do the passenger seats. So you got 3 radios. They're all linked together. So if I change one, we'll go to VATSIM Unicom. You can see they've all done the same thing. So you only have one comm radio. And this is linked to the ones up there. So you can't put separate information down here, which would be nice. For the TCAS, we are going to put our transponder frequency in of 2000 for this flight. So the APU is now up and running. So we will come over here, we will turn on the APU generators, and we'll just leave them on. I'm not going to disconnect the external power. I'll let the sim do that when we push back. I have found occasionally we'll go black with no power, and so we don't want to be worrying too much about that. So we are ready. Ooh, that was loud. We are ready for the pushback. We'll take a look. There's aircraft just landing over there. A couple others kicking around. And we are heading over this way to where this guy is. And that's where we're going to be going for takeoff. It was definitely a loud sound transition when we jumped outside. Alright, we are ready to go. So let's call in the tug.
Cockpit to ground.
This is ground. Stand by.
Using toolbar pushback. Tug's on his way in. We are going to let the VNAV work. This does have a working VNAV for both ascent and descent. And although you got to do the speed control for the descent, the altitude control works actually pretty well.
Okay, sir. The bypass pin is installed. All doors and hatches closed and all ground equipment is removed.
The parking brakes are set. You may lift.
Parking brake set. Lifting the aircraft.
Alright, so there's the nose coming up. This is Fly Tampa's Toronto, by the way.
Push.
Okay, cleared for push start. Please release parking brake.
Beautiful view inside the terminal. Parking brake released.
Are released.
Commencing pushback. You can start the engines in sequence.
It will start in the sequence.
Alright, we are pushing back, so we're going to come up to the overhead panel. These are the engine start switches. We'll start with engine 4 first. So we pull it out. That will start the engine rotating, as you can see. So we're looking at 2.5. And that's when we're going to add fuel. And to add fuel, we just flick the fuel switch from cutoff to run. We're just going to monitor, start to hear it. That's 2.5. Fuel's coming up. There we go. Exhaust temperatures are up. She is running. Just waiting for her to come stable. You can hear the switch cut out. So we're going to go start engine number 3 now. And she's stable. It says bleeds off. So your engine bleeds are down here. IPU bleeds on, but your main engines are off. So we'll turn on the bleed for engine 4. Let's make sure the air conditioning keeps running. There's engine 3 coming up. There's 25. So the tug guy's trying to get us on the line here. Just kind of wandering about a little bit. There's the cutoff. And you can start, now we're going to start the pair. We'll put the bleeds on for engine number 3, and we'll pull both 2 and 1. Parking brake is
Parking
set.
brake set.
Parking brake set. Lowering aircraft.
So we're not bad where we are, kind of where we want it to be.
Ground. You may disconnect.
Okay, sir. Clear to disconnect. Pin has been removed. See you at the side.
2 engines
Have a good
spooling
flight.
up.
Holding position waiting for the visual. Thank you and goodbye.
And there's 25 on both, so engine 2 and engine 1. We can get rid of him, and we should see the push cart. There he goes. In real life, one of the crew chief guy would show us the pins have been removed from the wheel. We'd give him the wave, and he would head off. So there's the start switches cutting off, engines are rolling up. And there we go. So we'll come up top now. We'll turn on the engine bleeds for those 2 engines. We can shut off the bleed for the APU. And we can now turn off the APU and kill the generators. And we are working on the generators. Here, the electrical generators for our 4 main engines, and the hydraulics are up for the 4 main engines as well. Alright, so APU selector is off. The packs are all on. Your packs are over here, on. There's 3 of them. So packs are on. Recall status is checked. Reference speeds are in. We took a look at that. You can see V1 there, 121. And if we, let's get rid of that for a second and bring that up, we can see 121, 134, and 156. Actually, we don't need that. We have our own stick. Flaps 10, so it goes 1, 5, 10, 20, and 30. So we're going to set flaps 10. And you can see there's our flap indicator. Flaps are moving. It is going to take them a little while to get there. Trims are set. We're in the green. That's no problem. Flight controls. We can do our flight control check now. So we'll come up and we'll select flight controls. It's full right, full left, neutral, full forward, full back, neutral, full left rudder, full right rudder, neutral. Flaps are set 10 and green, and auto brake will set to RTO. We're now ready for taxi, so we're going to turn our taxi light on and our turn off lights. And we're going to taxi over. Parking brake is released. Start our taxi. Big airplane, takes some power to get her going. We're going to head over to Delta, Quebec here, and then we'll taxi along Delta to the end of the runway. Alright, we're here at the end of the runway. Now, one of the problems I had when I set the clear weather was I forgot I'm running live traffic just to give us some variety of aircraft out there. And they're going to be using the weather that's actually happening. So we've actually changed to the other end of the runway. We're going off on 06 left. You can see the traffic down here at the moment. So I've reprogrammed everything. We're on 06 left. I'm going to set my range to 10 miles. And we can do our before takeoff checklist. So the vital data is done. Cabin has been notified. Packs are set. And on, we're going to bring on the lights. Weather radar, if we had it, would be on. Transponder, which is over here, will now go to TARA, and it's on. Flight directors will come on. That puts us into toga mode. And the auto throttles will now come on as well. And we are set to taxi out. So let's take a quick look up the approach path here. I don't see any aircraft inbound at the second, so we are good to take position. So brakes will come off. We'll get ourselves rolling out. Take position. Looks like we have an aircraft stopped out there. Not sure what he's doing. It's getting busy here. Ignore the windsock. It's actually flipped reverse of the way it should be. Winds are at 210. So I'm not sure why it's pointing in the wrong way. Let's get ourselves out here. Bring ourselves around. Now they do take off on the inner runway here and land on the outer one. That's how they control the traffic. You see that guy landing over there? Alright, a little bit of a hazy day out here today. So brakes are on. Seatbelts are on. Auto brake is set to RTO. Parking brake is currently set. Our flight control computer is good. Lights are all on. Anti-ice not required. I'll make sure our strobe is on as well. I'll wait to see what this guy does. We may just go anyway. This AI traffic is sometimes not too reliable. We'll just ignore him. Yeah, he just seems to be sitting there in the way. Okay, so we are set. Speed brakes are armed in case we need them. Flaps are set, engine set, brakes are set. Bring the engines up to about 40%. Let him stabilize. Yeah, he's just gonna sit there, so we'll pretend he's not there. Brakes are released. And engine's coming up. Takeoff power is set. It's 80 knots. We'll ignore him. And rotate. He's parked there. Oh, a little bit of that wind there. There we go. It's about 12 degrees, positive rate. Gear up, speed brake disarmed. Just 200 knots. We're going to set 200. Aircraft just everywhere, and autopilot on, LNAV, and VNAV. We're 200 knots. This flap's coming up. So you can set your VNAV speeds and everything in the system. If you come here into VNAV mode, you see we're at, should be at 250 climb out. Not sure why she set 260. And the little quirks in here. I'll bring the flaps all the way up now. There's 250. And then we're going to climb out at 250. We're going to go right up to flight level 40. There we go, and we can now head off. We'll vector ourselves, so we're going to highlight, put it on the top line, and then hit execute. And now we're going to turn, we'll range out to 40 miles at the moment. We'll make sure we have traffic on for our TCAS. And because we're doing a short trip, we are going to be climbing up at a good rate of speed. It is a very light airplane at the moment. And there's Toronto. CN Tower, Skydome, there's the Island Airport. It's 10,000 feet, so we'll come off on the landing lights and all the taxi lights. Let the cabin crew start doing their thing in the back. And you can see the traffic we have around us here. So while we're climbing out, I'll just check the weather down in Atlanta. It's currently winds are 140 at 7. Okay, so we're going to be coming in the other way. We're going to have to change that one around as well. So what I will do is during the cruise I'll reset that up, and then we can brief that arrival when we're in flight and on our way in. And then we'll change that up. And the computer as well. So there's mobile, now we're heading off. As you can see, down towards Oakville and carrying off to the south. And we're just going to climb out and just monitor now. We are in V now, so it's going to monitor our speeds and everything. Should hold us at about 323 or so for the climb out. And we're going to head right up to 40,000 feet. So I'll leave you with some views, and we'll catch up again when we are in the cruise getting ready to head down on our arrival into Atlanta. Alright, well, we're back in the cockpit and we're about 80 miles from top of descent. So we're going to take a look now at our arrival. As mentioned, we've switched over to live weather, so we're going to be changing the runways. The current weather down in Atlanta winds at 130 at 4. So we're going to land on runway 09 left. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to come down to the panel here. We'll just bring this over. we're going to go departure and arrival. We'll go to the index, over to our arrivals. We'll change our runway here to the ILS for 09 left. We'll enter that in, and I'm just going to pull up the chart here. We're going to go in via Rien, and that is right, we're going in on Hillary, and it's still on the Andre 1 arrival, so we'll hit execute on that. You see we've now got a discontinuity here. It's because we've just played around a little bit. So we're going to fix that because we are already on the approach, or on the star. So we just readjusted, and our top of descent has moved slightly closer as we're setting up. The other thing we got to do now is our performance information for our landing. So we're going to come in, we're going to go to our approach page. So 09 left is now entered in, 3,778 meters in length. That's going to be our gross weight when we land. So all we have to do is, are we going flaps 25 or flaps 30? We're going to go flaps 30. So I'll bring it down here. We'll insert it here, which gives us a reference speed of 144. And if we come up to the ND, we can see now 144 is appearing. So that means that we are set. That is going to be our speed we want to be going at 50 feet over the threshold as we come in for landing. Now the other thing we can see here on the ND is that VNAV path is now illuminated instead of the altitude hold. So it knows we're coming up towards the top of descent, so it's already calculating how we're going to be descending. And again, if we come down here and we look at our VNAV for our descent, it's going to descend us down at Mach 0.851 or 260 knots, and when we get below 10,000 feet, she's going to drop down to 240. So we're going to watch these speeds, just make sure she holds to it. We do have a couple altitude restrictions as we come in. See, at Andre, we have to be at 13,000 feet. This is going to bring us down here, and we've got a few other restrictions we need, but we're going to close off the discontinuities. We'll just copy that over, we'll take it right to the vector, and we will do that. So that closes it off. We'll take a look at the approach, but here we can see our restrictions as we come in, and that takes us down to Vini at 2,700 feet, which is where we are supposed to intercept the glide slope. So we're all going to be set there. For the RadNav, we will put in the frequency for the ILS right now, which is 110.5. It says 09 right. 110.5 is entered in, so that is all set. We'll also turn on the Atlanta VOR. It's 116.9 as a reference. So that is now all entered in, and we're pretty much good. So let's take a look at where we are and what is happening according to the charts. Alright, so we're currently past Aden and we're heading to Pug G, as we can see here on the charts for Pub Dog, or however you want to pronounce that. Then we're going to come up to Alde, which is our pretty much our top of descent just before there. Then we all know Strav, and then Andre. And as you can see, we're going to Andre, that's that 13,000 foot restriction we looked at. Then we're going to come down to Smelly. Then we're going to cross all the way down to Fries, then Shirt, Remac, Dactyl, and Stump. At which point we're going to make the turn in to Rien, and then AK, RB, Hendry, and then Vini. So that is our route all set up, and we should be able to do the VNAV thing all the way down. So we're about 40 miles out now. So we're just going to be watching that. We can already see the missed approach and the hold starting to appear on the nav display. And over here, if you see fuel tank and engine warning coming up, our fuel is starting to get low, but that's fine. We're going to be descending and landing shortly, so there's no great worries there that we have to keep ourselves concerned with. We do have an aircraft near us. It's about 2,000 feet below. I have been looking for him, and he's pretty close, but I'm not seeing him yet. And I'm not too worried about him. We do have priority for the AI ATC, but we're over the southern hills here of, I think we're over North Carolina right now, heading down into Georgia. There's a few aircraft in the area, as we can see on the display. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the minimum altitude we want to get down to, and that is going to be, we'll set initially 7,000 feet, which is what we want for Rien, which is the first point on the arrival into the approach. It's like our initial approach fix. So we'll set 7,000 feet, and that will be the maximum altitude it will go down to, the plane will descend to. And we don't have to do anything else when we get to top of descent, because we have set a lower altitude. She's just going to head down on her own. We're on auto throttle. She has her speed set up, so she should maintain this 8.85 for our descent, and our VNAV is in. The last thing we have to do as we get ready is put in our decision altitude, and we will go decision altitude 1359, so that'll be 1360. So if we come down, we can see radio, but we want barrel, so we're going to select barrel, and we will put 1360. The reason we're going for barrel is it is a simple category 1 ILS. There we go, 1360 is set. Shortly we'll see the vertical path marker appear, and that's what we'll be following down as we go. So we won't see any speed unless we have to do it manually, which we will when we get down to Andre, because it is a different restriction. It is a 13,000 foot restriction above 10,000 feet. So we'll manually handle that until we get below 10,000 feet, and then we can let the aircraft take over again. So we're almost to the point. We've passed that one aircraft that was below, so we got another one about 1,000 feet lower than us, somewhere out this way. But we're all good. And we're about ready to start our descent. As you can see, we've got, even up this high over these hills, we got a little bit of turbulence kicking us around. But it's all good. It'll be a full flap landing, as I mentioned, 30 degrees. So what I am going to do is, because my throttles are still fully forward from where I left it, and I'm using a throttle quadrant, we want to be able to pull back with minimum effort on landing. So I'm actually bringing the throttles about 3/4 of the way back, so that when I do kick the auto throttles off as we come in to land, they're closer to the actual throttle positions as we're landing, and you don't have such a big variance, and you don't run the risk of as soon as you start moving them, the engine's spooling up because you've got the throttle so far forward. So, little trick that you can do. Alright. We'll just come in and watch what's happening here. We're almost at the point. So it should, just before all day, about a mile or two before all day, we should see it kick in and start our descent. There we go. There's our descent marker, and it's showing the path here. We're coming up to intercept. There she is, and we're starting down to maintain there. Engines are starting to spool back to maintain our speed. And we're going to go to fairly steep as we try to capture it, and then once we do capture it, we'll pull up slightly and just follow that path all the way down. Right now we're saying we're 130 feet above the path. You should see that start to decrease as we are going pretty steeply downwards as we try to come up and grab it. It'll take a minute or two. There we go, you can see it coming down now. And you can see us getting closer. This aircraft is now above us as we're descending down. He's probably at 39, flight level 390. There we go, we're almost back on the path, and it's showing it in both spots, and we're also got the LNAV indicator there as well. Another aircraft now popping in. So if this was working properly, we could come down here and set our TCAS for below and all that, but it doesn't matter. It's not that sensitive at the moment. So not seeing the aircraft out there. But it's all good. He's well above us, and now he's out of warning range. Come back a little bit on the range for the radar. So Andre is the point we want to be at 13,000 feet. So we're just going to descend down. I'll pick up again with you when we get to 13,000 and Andre. So as you can see, we're coming up to Andre now. We're about 3.5 miles out, about 1,000 feet to go. So we'll pretty much hit that at 13,000 feet. We've also got to slow down to 250 knots as per the arrival. A lot of clouds. Still some aircraft in the area coming in with us. It'll be interesting to see which runways they choose. Winds are still out of the east. East-southeast at 4 knots. According to the latest weather. And we see the path we're going to take. We're going to come down here to Smelly, shoot out across past the airport, make the extended right pattern, and come in. So you can see we've readjusted ourselves for the new descent path. We're kind of leveling here until we pick up the next section of the path. Which is fine. And then we'll handle it on its own. We'll zoom in a little bit now. And you can see the cyan color. This is the missed approach and down to the hold point at Connie. Again, 7,000 is our selected altitude. So we're just going to hold here at 13,000. So we're about 10 miles to go before we make that turn and we hit that descent point. And as you can see on the TCAS, we got a couple aircraft around us. You can look over here. And where'd he go? I did see him a minute ago. I'm not seeing him now. I was seeing them both a minute ago. Looks like they're turning to go down the north side of the airfield, which is fine. We're going to stick with our plan here. So what we can do is as we approach the turn point here, we'll get ourselves set up for that next section of descent. So we're going to want to have our flaps out already. So we can go to flaps 1, which is speed check of 285. We're 250, so we'll go flaps 1. And we're also going to ding the cabin, get the seat belts on. And since we're about to go below When we're in the airport environments, we'll turn on all the lights. We're going to zoom in a little bit more. Get ready for the descent. So we go flaps 5, 265 knots, speed checked. There's flaps 5. There's the turn. We're going to ease the speed back to 240. And as the speed comes through 200 or 245, and there we go. We can go flaps 10, speed check. 240, flaps 10, and you can see we're now starting down. This is to take us down to 7,000 feet. And after that, we'll set our next altitude as 2,700 feet. But we'll see where the ILS is, and we may be running the glide slope and everything down at that point. See where we end up. So there's the airport down below us here. It's got 5 runways, east-west runways. We're landing on the center pair, on the right of the center pair, I believe it is. Oh, sorry, the left of the center pair, which is the longer of the two. So we're through 12,000 feet. We got 5,000 to go. The ILS is coming online now. We can verify it. IHZK, and if we go to the chart for the airport, we look it up, it's IHZK. So that is correct. India Hotel Zulu Kilo. Continue our descent on the path. Glide slope is now showing. Here's one of the aircraft we saw. Right about there. Looks like he's going to come around and land on the northern runways. So they're lined up at 08 left and right, and then 09 left and right, and then 10. So we're landing on 9 left, which is the middle of the 5. So we're just coming up to Remac. After that, it's 8.5 miles, so Dactyl. So even though we've lost the markers here because the ILS has come up, we've still got the path indicator here, which is showing. So we're on path descent to 7,000 feet. There's 10,000 coming up, but we've already got our lights on, so we're good there. Do a quick fuel check. Again, we still got 10 tons of fuel. Aircraft costing in front of us here. Down low. It's not showing on TCAS. Through 10,000. And we're good to tune in the bottom of our descent, so that is going to be 2,700 feet. So we'll dial that in. There we go, 2,700 is now entered. So it's 7,000 at Rien. We've got about 1,800 feet to go. So we're going to bring our speed back to 210 now. And with that reduction, below 235, we can go to 20-degree flaps. So flaps 20. And flaps 20 green. You see, we're working our way around here. She's a little bit loose. Tries to get back onto course. Big aircraft, lots of room to maneuver. We're going to come around wide here as well when we make this turn. See how much we're descending now. So we're 21 miles out from the airport. Pretty powerful ILS, so we're going to, as soon as we get ourselves kind of lined up here, we're going to go into approach mode. There we go. Until we swing a little bit more level. And we'll let the localizer take it in the glide slope. We're going to keep descending on the path down to 2,700, or we will intercept, one of the two. Looks like we should level off at 2,700 and then intercept. And we can see the airport there. There's the 208 runways there. Here's the 209s, and then the 10 is, I think it's over here. It's 5,000 feet. We're going to bring our speed back now to 180. Alright, flaps 25, speed 210, we're 200, speed's checked. Flaps 25. As soon as we level off at 2,700, we'll drop the gear and then go full flaps. We'll take over at 500 feet and then turn the auto throttles off so that we can have control of the engines on landing. It's 4,000 feet. There's an aircraft ahead of us. Looks like he's probably landing on 08. I don't see him. Oh, there he is. Yeah, he's landing on 08. He's over there. No aircraft in front of us. 1,000 to go. See, we're below the glide slope. That's fine. We're going to level off. And then we'll intercept.
2,500.
And off to the left there, you can see downtown Atlanta. Including, looks like Braves Stadium there. It's 300 feet to go. Alright, she should have leveled off. Not a good thing, so I'm going to take over. And just bring it up. So she didn't intercept the glide slope when it was supposed to. Alright, so if I had to give it now. Are you going to do what you're supposed to do? No. Alright, we're going manual. Normally it would work if it had intercepted properly, but I kind of screwed that up a little bit. But that's okay. We'll get her back on. Yeah, 143 for the speed. Get the gear down. And full flaps. And it looks like we might have an aircraft on the runway, but I am not going around. Hopefully he'll get going. It's 500 feet.
400.
His minimum's coming up. He hasn't even left yet, and the other guy's coming in behind him, so there's fun and games. Looks like there's multiple airplanes stacking up. So we'll just pass over top of them. Oop, almost forgot auto brakes.
100.
Auto brakes are set.
50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
And reversers are set on all engines. So it was a little bit messy coming in on final there, but we managed to get it down. So you can see how easy it is to handle the aircraft. Auto brakes are off. And we will exit the runway. So even with those little bit of a convoluted landing and approach there, still easy enough to get her down. So at the moment my recommendations would be to VNAV is great down to just before the approach, but make sure you're down and set up to intercept properly on the approach. Do that manually so you can get a proper glide slope intercept. Alright, so we're down. We'll get the strobes off. And we're going to taxi in. Also bring the flaps up. This is where we're headed. The international terminal here. So I always say it's a good thing to learn from people, but you can also learn from their mistakes. So, as I mentioned, do some fine-tuning manually for your arrival and approach. Make sure you're down to your altitudes before you hit the glide slope. And obviously she kicked off of the V path, and because we were below the glide slope, she just never intercepted it. So something to pay attention to as you fly in. But again, it's a fun airplane to fly. Fairly simple. She's well balanced at the moment. You just got to monitor what's going on with it. And it can be a great addition to your fleet. We're just going to come in now and park up, and then we can get her shut down. And there we are. So we'll set the parking brake. And then we can do our shutdown. So landing lights are off, flaps are up, speed brake is down, and weather radar is off. The hydraulic pumps can all come off now. We'll go on to external power, which is already on. I've shut down the engines. A lot of fuel pumps to turn off. I'll get them all. External power is on. I'll make sure all the lights are now off. Leave the nav lights on. Turn off everything else. And the peoples can get up and deplane. So here we are at Atlanta Regional Airport. Looks like the airplanes have all jammed up there. That's one of the problems with the AI traffic. Thanks for joining us on the flight. Hope you learned something. Hope you found that the aircraft is a little bit simpler to fly than you may have thought, and give it a shot. I would have no worries flying this on VATSIM. Not at all. Thank you very much again. We will see you on the next one. Bye for now.